Welcome, Guardians, to episode 278 of Destiny Massive Breakdowns. As always, I am your host, Kit Kutcha, and I am back with another exciting episode. This week on the show, we are going to we're just going to finally do something that, honestly, I feel like I should have done weeks ago. But there's been so many other things to talk about that I've never gotten around to it. And I'm really excited to have a guest on the show this week who just perfectly, I think, fits what we needed for this episode. This week on the show, we're going to be talking about the criteria, the steps that you might take when you're going about reviewing a weapon, deciding if that weapon is good or bad, worth your time, worth chasing. And my guest on the show today is Critbuff, Guardian who tries weapons so you don't have to. Critbuff, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Kid. It's a pleasure to be here, and thank you for having me.
Hey, my pleasure, man, my pleasure. And, fair warning to listeners, we will have a little bit of background noise in this episode. It is, unfortunately, unavoidable. That's not everyone can afford to have a super professional podcaster setup like I have with my fancy microphone and curtain. And there may be some noise while you're talking that we can't quite filter out. So just fair warning to everybody listening. That's going to be a thing. Stick with us. There's going to be some great info. Critbuff, how you doing? How's life?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm doing pretty well. Adulting this week, pretty hard. Dealing with work, dealing with being a podcast maker, dealing with being a dad and a husband and a person who likes to take trips like way too often. So lots to stay on top of, but I'm still finding time to have some fun. So what's is there anything you feel like you can share about your life? What's new for you lately that people might not know?
Certainly. So some people might not know this. A lot probably do if they follow my socials, but I am closing in on my 20th year in the U.S. Army. I plan on retiring in a few years. The plan was not to do a day over 20, but things changed. So I am currently the Public Affairs Operations NCO, that's non-commissioned officer, for 2-star command here, an installation on the East Coast. And I'm also the acting Public Affairs Sergeant Major for the week while my boss is on leave. That basically means just coordinating, messaging, planning content, production, release, running things by the command, all of that sort of good stuff. And it's a fun job to have for the military. And as soon as I'm done with this, we'll see what I transition into, whether that's as a government service employee, doing basically the same thing, but getting paid more at the base of my choosing this time.
Aha.
Yes. So we'll see.
All right. Well, congratulations. First off, that's a huge milestone. Appreciate your time in service as well. My dad was Army Reserve for a long time, so I have some familiarity. Fortunately, we never had to move around. But yeah, it's definitely a sacrifice for those that do, and appreciated.
Thank you for the support. Yeah, I'm happy to be getting on at this age. At this time, rather. My daughters are getting to their formative years. So I'll be happy not to be moving them around quite so often. It's
for sure,
especially as they start to develop those friendships and those bonds that are going to be really meaningful and impactful later. It'll be nice to have that stability. Yeah,
no, as a fellow parent, I completely understand. Like that's got to be tough for folks raising kids, having to move around a lot. And yeah, so this sounds like some things are lining up pretty well for you. So that's awesome.
We'll see. I have the degree. I have the experience, so that's right. That's the paradox in the civilian world, right? Nobody will hire you to get experience, so then nobody will hire you. Hopefully I've bypassed all that.
That is often the challenge. Yeah, it's tough to get your foot in the door. Well, in other congratulations, you also, not like super recently, but relatively recently had a feature on Bungie.net.
It was a great honor and the hardest thing to keep my mouth quiet about.
I can believe that.
I am considered somewhat of a divisive figure, given that I was a vocal supporter of the aerial effectiveness system. I don't begrudge anyone who disagrees with me. I just begrudge personal attacks, that sort of thing. So I understand that we don't agree there. I respect that we disagree. And ultimately, outside of my hands, outside of our hands as players, that is the development team's decision. And whichever way they go, I still enjoy the game and I will still play it. So again, please do not take my support of that system as a personal slight against you if you are not a fan of it. It is just how I felt about the issue, and yeah.
Yeah, no, totally fair. We always begrudge personal attacks here at Massive Breakdowns. We love people who attack ideas using evidence and logic and reason, and who share their emotions about how a system makes them feel in a way that is about them and not, targeted. But yeah, anyone who crosses that line into name calling just immediately loses my respect. It's just not necessary, not helpful, and that's all that really needs to be said about that. But I just want to say congratulations. I think that's amazing. Tons of hard work and stuff that goes on long before you ever just sort of get fortunate to get noticed in that way. You've put literal thousands of hours into stuff in Destiny 2. And I'm sure countless hours editing video, just not even playing the game, just editing video. So appreciated.
I've done what I can to streamline the process. Thank you. Yeah, I do what I can. And working on some new series besides the 1,000 kill reviews, just because they do take so long.
Yeah.
Also, I had to take a bit of a hiatus with this last move. It took 2 months for everything to get here from Hawaii. So I do apologize for those delays and uploads.
Yeah. Moving to Hawaii is, not quite the same as moving from other states. It's a little more work. Well, that all said, I appreciate everything you do. I'm glad to have you here. And before we dive into the kind of the main theme of the episode, I do want to take a quick break and just say a special thank you to some Guardians who support this show in a huge way. So shout out, thank you, just, heartfelt appreciation to the following Guardians. This Moment, Black Hammer Tech, Binary Wolf, The Shazzle, Sylv, Impetus, Starscream, Zen SoCal, ASCII, and Monk. These Guardians are patrons who give on a incredibly generous level to support Destiny Massive Breakdowns, to support Podcast versus Enemies, to support the Massive Breakdown spreadsheet, and just kind of pay for all the stuff that costs money that otherwise is hard for me to justify on my own. So, they've really put this show and everything that goes with it on super solid financial ground. And they're not alone. We've got over 170 patrons supporting Destiny Massive Breakdowns right now. Incredibly proud and grateful. Don't really fully understand at all how that happened. It just sort of happened. And thank you so much to everyone who's part of that crew, who's ever been part of that crew, even if it was just for a single month. It is seen and appreciated. And on that note, big shout outs that I did not quite get the chance to make last week because we were super short on time. So special thank you and welcome to Troubled Walrus and CB Scruffy, new patrons joining the crew this month. Thank you so much for your support. All right. That all said, let's set the thank yous, the gratitude aside. Let's just drop all emotions and just be super hardcore Destiny scientists now. It's super serious time. Critbuff, one of the reasons I was excited to have you on this show is that you approach reviewing weapons in a way that is pretty different from a lot of people who are putting out content similar to what I do here, who are talking about perks and stats and which weapons to chase and which weapons to just auto shard. And so I was really excited to kind of dig into you, like, what does that process look like? How do we decide? Is this weapon worth my time?
I'm so happy you asked, Kit. So for me, it's an ever-changing and evolving process, but I can kind of provide some basic feedback here and some insight into it. And so when I initially began, choosing a weapon was fairly random. Sometimes I would go with something if I got lucky and got a great roll right out of the gate, right? You get a good drop.
It happens.
First things first in the season.
Yeah.
You're like, I'm done. So the process was initially random. As I have gone along, and what I'm looking to do now is I'm trying to look for outliers and to go with those first. And so in the case of my most recent review, Blood Feud, the SMG from the Season of Plunder. The reason I went for it was that it was an aggressive frame SMG, a rarity unto itself.
Yeah.
But also the first Stasis one, and it doesn't have rangefinder. So the question became, do SMGs need rangefinder to be worth a darn? That was the question that I began to ask myself as I started the review process. Interestingly enough, I was also inspired by a previous episode, I think not last week, but the week before. You and the guest were going over the Plunder weapons, and you were like, yes to this, no to that. And then when it came, I think it was Glow. I think you and Glow came to the conclusion that even in its best form, Blood Feud wouldn't hold water. I don't know if it was because it lacked rangefinder specifically or if it was a stat package issue. I can't remember exactly, but that stuck in my mind while I was listening to you during my morning run. And I decided to go ahead and pursue that. So the review started out with a Shadebinder Warlock using Claws of Ahamkara, 100 strength. The idea being that using Whisper of Hedrons with that build, I would freeze someone with Penumbra Blast, proccing Right Hook, generating or Stasis Shards, which I could collect for healing and Overshield, running up, slapping their frozen face, and then proccing Swashbuckler. And that was also with enhanced dynamic sway reduction. So using all that together, I had a ton of fun with it. I love Stasis because I love shutting down aggressive play. I'm a defensive player by nature.
Yeah.
And that was great. That was the first 500 kills. The next 500 kills, I decided to do what you and Glow recommended. I believe the conversation was that you and Glow decided, okay, if you're going to use this in a competitive environment, you're going to want DSR and you're going to want enhanced elemental capacitor on Void for stability to control this puppy. I did that, and you were both right. It cannot hold water. Long story short, the stability is nice. The range is nice, going with full bore, accurized rounds, a range frame. It can't keep up, unfortunately. That aim assist fall off from rangefinder is crucial.
Yeah.
Primarily because if you are going to be Void, your chances for stopping a Juggernaut Titan are slim. You can throw Pocket Singularity at them and sometimes have hilarious results. But sometimes, as Glow put it, the circle of BS, or stupidity, one of Glow's most recent videos, please go check that out if you have the chance. It's very easy to get within that circle of stupidity, especially right now for arc classes, Warlocks and Titans. So with the Juggernaut Shield, Stasis was much better at dealing with that.
Yeah.
And so while it was technically on paper less optimal, Stasis with enhanced DSR, enhanced Swashbuckler, with Penumbra Blast and Claws and Hedrons was far and away a better experience.
Yeah. Well, I think there's a takeaway there for anyone who didn't get this from the time that Glow was on. Shadebinder is super good right now. And anyone who disagrees with that, you're welcome to your opinion. But it's really, really good. If you just don't like dealing with the circle of stupidity, it gives you an out. Multiple outs. Yeah.
There's nothing quite as satisfying as playing off audio cues and listening. Like, okay, there's the Juggernaut Shield activated. He's coming around the corner in 3, 2, 1. Throw the blast. They eat it in the face just as they round the corner, and it's poetry in motion.
Yeah, it's a good kit. It's got the tools that you need. Yeah. Well, we're not going to dive into Shadebinder. Maybe that's a future episode. Maybe, I don't feel like it's that complicated. Freeze enemy, punch enemy, win. But
it's fairly straightforward.
Yeah. But it is good to hear, first off, that a review that I gave held up for someone else who was actively testing the weapon. So that's always encouraging to know that the advice that I am giving is helpful for more than just me.
You're on the right track.
Yes, I'm not completely wrong. I'm not just making stuff up. Thank goodness. Some days I wonder. So that's very encouraging. What I'd like to kind of follow up on there is, and you talked about trying kind of different roles and also different classes with the weapon. And you also talked about how you picked the weapon. And so I want to kind of hit both those points a little bit more. I'm certainly interested in how you picked the weapon. And I know you're kind of picking a weapon to some extent from the point of view of someone who's planning to do a review. That can definitely influence your decision making. And I'm curious how your decision making changes. You know, say a new crop of weapon comes out, as they do. You've got weapons that you want to get so you can review them. But then, you know, I assume there are also weapons that you want to get because you look at them and you're like, oh, hey, this fills a hole that I personally would like to fill. Or this does something better than a gun that I currently have. And what's what's kind of the process for you in deciding if a weapon hits those marks?
You look at what does it have to offer, and this is a very similar process to Cool Guy. He's talked about it publicly. What can it do that nothing else can do?
I love that question.
Yeah. In the case of Season of Plunder, what can Brigand's Law and Tarnished Metal do that no other weapon can do? Volt Shot.
Yeah.
But here's something else that Brigand's Law can do that no other weapon can do, at least of its archetype. Enhanced hipfire grip on a rapid-fire sidearm.
Yep.
I don't know if you've tried it, but even a regular hipfire grip with the mod. I forget the name of the mod.
Yeah, freehand.
Freehand, thank you.
My favorite mod.
Regular hipfire grip and freehand. That gun doesn't move when you fire from the hip. Like, it's super easy to control.
Yeah.
It's very easy. There are some other factors, of course. What are your magazine perks? What's the frame?
Yeah.
That sort of thing. And an idea I had, again, while listening to you and Glow review the season weapons, you were talking about it. I don't think you talked about it in this specific way. As I was looking at the perks, I said, Adagio. And I thought back for a second. I said, man, Adagio makes empirical evidence really great because it slows it down and makes it even easier to control. And so then I began to wonder, I'm like, I know it may not necessarily equate to a TTK increase, maybe even a deficit, but could Adagio slow Brigand's Law down enough to make it even more controllable? Because I know that Suros rapid fire sidearms are basically body shot machines. But what if, through enhanced hipfire grip with freehand and Adagio and the right frame, stability, barrel, perhaps that could change. Perhaps there's a possibility or an opportunity for a rapid fire sidearm to become something different than just a body shot spam machine.
Yeah. I don't think I did go down that route. That's one of the things I really like about this latest crop of weapons, the seasonal, the King's Fall weapons, kind of everything that they've come out with, like in the last season, is that they've really done a great job of providing us with these diverse, varied perk selections where there are so many combinations that it's really difficult, like, unless you just go make a table and just go every single combination, like, hey, what about this? If I assume this is good, does that hold up? Like, it's really easy to miss stuff. And Adagio on Brigand's Law makes a ton of sense. It does not reduce the time to kill. It stays the same. It's 0.67 either way, but it does make the optimal into a 3 crit 2 body. So it's fewer shots, you're firing slower, it ends up being the same time, but much easier to hit because the optimal otherwise requires all precision hits, which is just not reasonable 9 times out of 10.
Yeah. Most
players, even good players.
Mr. Walla.
Yeah. It's just, it's not a thing that you normally, worry about. Yeah. That's absolutely a feasible time to kill to hit. And it also makes the body shot time to kill a second flat, which is not bad. Oh, actually, it is bad. I take it back. The regular body shot time to kill is 0.93. So it does make...
Oh, well.
Yeah, so you actually do need to hit crits. If you go Adagio, you probably don't want to hip fire.
It's so smooth. I don't know. Maybe you could get into a habit of it, but then you're really kind of going around your elbow to get to your rear end.
Yeah, I think if you're going with the body shot machine, you probably don't go that route. But
that's a good thing we had this conversation.
Yeah.
You saved me a lot of heartache.
Yeah, the crit... The precision angle threshold is there. Like, you could do it. I just think it's going to be, like you said, going around your... I actually don't know what you just said. Going around your elbows, something.
To get to your rear end.
Yeah.
There's another version of that phrase that's less nice. Yeah.
But Adagio certainly could work if you're willing to take the time to hit crits on Brigand's Law. I don't know if I said anything about that in that episode. It's been too long.
I might just be crazy enough to try it.
Yeah, I've thought for years about paying for transcripts of these episodes so that I could more easily search and reference things I've said, because people who listen to the show often know what I've said better than I do. And
how could you be expected to remember everything you say on these podcasts?
It's I don't know. Anyways, yeah, Adagio could work. All right. Well, so I'm going to share what I usually do, and I think this will sound pretty familiar to everybody who listens to the show, because it's more or less what I do verbally into your ears when you're listening. When I'm looking at a weapon and deciding, is this weapon good? I usually start by taking a look at the archetype. What's the rate of fire? What's the time to kill? How does that stack up? That's usually kind of a good baseline indicator. You look at, your optimal, you look at your body, you look at kind of that adjusted, that median time to kill that we talked about.
I love that, by the way, that you do that. I think that needs to be emphasized more. I think more people need to appreciate that you do that.
It's so valuable because it's much more often a truer time to kill. Especially I'd say for 70+% of players, it's more true time to kill than the optimal is, except on very specific weapons. So I always like to start with that. What does it do in PvP? And obviously PvP is where I'm focused. So I don't think about that as much in PvE. I will obviously look at the archetype and say, hey, is this like actively bad at killing dads? And then you're looking at, okay, what is the role of this weapon? In terms of like, is this close range, aggressive play? Is this, kind of a holdout weapon where it's a sidearm and it's too close range most of the time to play aggressive, but it is great for backpedaling? Is it, kind of a mid-range weapon, hand cannon, pulse rifle, auto rifle? Am I fighting at longer ranges? What's kind of the point of the weapon? Then we look at the stats. Do the stats support that role? Do they make sense? How do they compare to, its peers? What stats stand out? And do they stand out for good reasons or bad reasons? And that's often pretty telling. And then at that point, sometimes if a weapon is just like bad, I'll stop looking at it. I won't even look at the perks. I'll just be like, nope.
You're more sensible than I am.
Unless I'm reviewing it on the show, I'll just be like, this weapon would have to have some kind of incredible perk combination for it to be worth my time. If it does, people will be talking about it in Discord or on Twitter, and then I'll give it a second look.
So, on that subject, a weapon that should not have gelled with me at all or done well for me at all.
Yeah.
The precision frame auto rifle from Season of the Haunted. Why can't Firefright?
Oh yeah.
That was the fastest review I ever did because I got 300 kills in a day.
Holy cow. Yeah.
I don't know why. But Firefright and Firefright got me. I got Firefright. It was a bromance of the ages.
Yeah.
So sometimes things can surprise you, but I think that your methodology is probably a sound one that works 9.95 times out of 10.
I hope. But, I do sometimes miss stuff. If occasionally there's a weapon where it's in a bad archetype and the stats are bad, but it's got some wacky perk combination and I should still want it. And maybe I just missed it because I really kind of skimmed, And so then, here, if the weapon is just like not actively bad at this point, then I'm going to want to dig into the perks and be like, okay, what does it have that's unique? Does it have something that other weapons like this don't have? Does it have a combination that other weapons don't have? Does it have an origin trait that is really interesting, which is more and more the case? Does it, do the perk combos that it has support the role that it naturally fits into? In PvE or PvP, does it have any perk combinations that give it some kind of utility that's unusual for this type of weapon? Is it I'm drawing a blank now on an example. I didn't have an example for that. But
I have one for you, and
yes.
You have the math and the knowledge to support this. There was somebody, full stop, confession. I am middle of the curve, if slightly better than middle of the pack in skill. I make no profession to be skilled at this game. I represent the average man. I am 41 years old. I have 2 children. My brain is shrunk. That out of the way. Disclaimer done. In my lobby the other day, someone was using Come to Pass with Golden Tricorn, and they were destroying us.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that's a high-impact frame auto rifle, which recently got the stability buff that it needed to make it more usable.
Oh, they did.
What does Golden Tricorn do to Come to Pass, even at 1 stack, that made that man or gal or non-binary pal destroy my lobby?
So let's take a look here. And this is a perfect time for me to shout out that I recently spent like 4.5 hours updating the spreadsheet with a brand new implementation of the time to kill comparison tool, which now allows you to compare up to 3 effects on all weapon types. Full disclosure, the rate of fire perks only work in the first column right now. I didn't have time to get around to updating the formulas to account for the new columns.
How dare you?
I've got like 50 different damage perks and buffs in the system right now that you can. It's a massive list that you can scroll down.
If you cared, you would have all those rates of fire. That's all.
On fusion rifles, I did do all the rates of fire. So fusion rifles have like 3 tables. Fusion rifle testers know.
I'm just giving you a hard time. I'm sorry.
It's okay. It's okay. It's good for me. So golden tricorn is just really, really good. High impact auto rifles naturally have a optimal time to kill of 0.83 seconds with 6 crits, which is, with the new stability, actually achievable for the average person. The median time to kill, 4 crits and 3 bodies, gives you 1 second flat. And so that's not great. You really do want to be hitting those crits. Golden tricorn is arguably one of the best new damage perks in the game. It gives you an optimal...
busted last season.
Oh, yeah. It's still busted. It gives you an optimal time to kill of 0.67 seconds with 5 crits. Again, that is achievable with these weapons with decent stability. Throw a DSR on one of these guns, decent zoom, you're all set. It makes the accuracy adjusted time to kill 4 crits and 2 bodies, 0.83 seconds, which is blazing fast at 30 meters. And yeah.
So there you go, folks. Yeah. Give it a shot. If you get ×2, which is completely feasible, it's an arc weapon, correct?
Come to pass is an arc weapon.
It's arc 3.0. You can get ×2 stacks. It's easier than you think.
Yeah.
Especially with those dang storm grenades.
Yeah. And so that's the kind of thing where I start, when I start digging into a weapon that I start looking at, like, what are the damage perks? Which one of these is going to make a difference? And then kind of the last question, and this is often okay, it's time to actually play with this gun. Like, no more theory crafting. Let's take it out into the world and see if it stacks up. And that's where it's all about feel. Because sometimes a weapon is just incredible on paper and even incredible in the hands of some other players. But if it doesn't feel right to you, then you're not going to perform with it. And there's really kind of no getting around that. A great example of this is borrowed time. I have a nearly perfect borrowed time roll. And the fact of the matter is I don't use it because I just really don't like the reticle.
It can be that simple sometimes.
That's just all it is. Like, I'm really picky on SMGs. Generally, I just don't like the game feel experience of an SMG. A lot of that has to do with the reticle for me, and borrowed time is an incredible weapon. For many people, I will actively choose to use weapons that are statistically inferior, and I'll do better with them because they have better reticles. So
Ivan is crying right now.
I know.
If you know.
I know.
Ivan is very upset with you.
I feel like I've told him this. Maybe not. Yeah, it is what it is. Fortunately, we have another SMG we're going to talk about in this episode that I have absolutely fallen in love with. So we'll get into that in a little bit here. So if you had like some advice for somebody who is looking at it, they're like, oh my gosh, there are 40 weapons that came out this season. That's too many to chase for most players. Anyone who's not doing this either full time or like because they literally just have that much free time in their life somehow. The people who are like you, who are like me, who have jobs and families and kids and other, other responsibilities that eat into that destiny time. What would your advice be to somebody who's trying to narrow that list down? What are the kind of the questions they should ask themselves so that they don't have to actually sit and pore over the stats for all 40 weapons and try to, make their own spreadsheet trying to get through this?
My advice, it's fairly simple. You know what you like and you know what you don't like, generally speaking. Now, there will be outliers and occasional diamonds in the rough. You know what you like. Stick with what you like. If you love scout rifles, look for the scout rifles that are coming that season, if any. See what's special about them. See what stands out. Maybe I thought people called me crazy for holding on to my hung jury with box breathing. They don't call me crazy now. So
basically, did a full episode just for that.
Yeah, exactly. So stick with what works for you personally. I am a defensive player. My KD will radically crash if I attempt to be aggressive. So I avoid anything that would support an aggressive play style. And know yourself there. And then I suppose if you are talking about limited time and availability in the game, look at what is feasible for you to obtain and game with purpose. If you know that you have to do X, Y, and Z to get 5 red frames, do X, Y, and Z. Don't waste your time doing something else.
This is feeling really, really personal right now.
It's because it is.
Yeah. No, that's actually really good advice. That is,
thank you.
In no small part, that's what got me into making content for Destiny, is that I was playing fairly early in the game's life. There wasn't a ton of great content out there already. And so I started making my own documents just for me because I needed to front load the effort. And I had spare time at work, but I was at work. I could not be playing the game. You know, at that time I didn't work from home. If it was a slow day, I didn't have the option to rotate to the other side of my desk and play Destiny. Nobody tell my boss.
Your secret's safe.
Yeah. I mean, if they're a Destiny fan, they'll get it. So, and if they're not, they're not listening. So it's all good.
You're covered either way.
I'm safe. But yeah, like that's really good advice. And fortunately, we live in a golden age of information for Destiny players. There are so many phenomenal sources of information out there. I also love the reminder, like, you know what you like. Because I think it's easy for people to get drawn in to whatever the latest craze is, you know.
Yeah.
It's literally like, you know, 100 times a day somebody posts the best blank in Destiny.
Oh gosh.
Because those are the video titles that come up in search results. Like, that's what gets clicks and gets views. And it's not accurate, it's not useful. So realizing, like, hey, I don't need to look for the best. I need to look for somebody who's giving reviews from a viewpoint that matches my playstyle. Find some trusted creators. Hopefully you've got one here, but I think it's always good to have 2 or 3 sources of information at any time, you know. And I try to dip my toes in around the community and pick up, you know, just kind of random videos to just see, okay, what is this random person I've never heard of think? Never know when you might find something new. But, you know, that's something I spend a small amount of time on. And so I think that's sticking to what you know you already love as kind of your core is just a really good reminder for people. You don't have to get sucked into, this season it's cool to play with aggressive hand cannons. Whatever.
Lord, that meta.
Yeah. You know, unless what you love has just been actively, like, nerfed into the dirt, which generally doesn't happen these days. Thank you, Bungie, for changing that philosophy. You're pretty safe to stick with what you love. You know, it's probably not bad. So that's awesome. All right. I don't think I have anything else to follow up on, unless I've forgotten the question I was going to ask, which is always possible. But yeah, that's all I've got. Do you have anything you want to add at the end here on the topic of reviewing?
Certainly. Understand that just because someone has recommended something, you do not have to go get it and try it. I watch a variety of content creators. If I want to learn, I will listen to this podcast, or I will watch Ivan or Irda, or I'll go to that creator for that content. If I just want to watch somebody slay out, I'll watch Frostbolt, or I'll watch someone of that nature, right? We go to different creators for different things. So when you are thinking about a weapon, when you are considering a new weapon to go for, consider the source. Yeah,
that's consider the source, man. There's literally no better advice for life than that right there. Every aspect of your life, like anytime you're making a decision, you're taking information, consider the source. Could not have said it better. Let's leave it at that. So one of the other things I asked you here to do with me today is to talk about Season 18's playlist weapons. There are 3 new weapons flooding Guardians inventories and vaults right now. And I think they're each worth talking about, is what I want to lead in with. And certainly there are a variety of opinions that I've heard on each of them so far. And so we're going to dig into the numbers and the perks and all the things that we talked about here, and the feel and also our own experiences with these weapons. And I'd like to actually lead off with one that I know that you are currently working on. So we're going to get a preview of the Critbuff Pure Poetry review.
Oh, Lordy.
So now keep in mind, nobody likes a flip-flopper. So anything you say here, if you change your mind in your final review, it just makes you a bad person. Like I'm just...
Horrible human being.
Yeah, fair warning. So...
Fair enough. Okay, so let me pull up my notes here that I have prepared for Pure Poetry based on an afternoon, well, sort of an afternoon and a morning of play on two different classes. First, Warlock. The second, Hunter. All right. My goal with this role, and the role that I'm talking about right now, is Focus Fury and Outlaw. In case you're unfamiliar with it, Focus Fury. If you land half of the rounds in the magazine, or in this case, a cylinder... That's what revolvers have. They have cylinders.
Little education.
There you go. As precision hits, you will receive a 20% damage buff, I believe, for approximately 10 to 11 seconds.
Yep.
Now, this alone will not enable a 120 hand cannon, which is what Pure Poetry is. It drops from Vanguard Strikes. It will not enable Pure Poetry to 2-tap, however, when combined with a buff such as Radiance, or Radiant, you are hitting for 106, which effectively enables you to 2-tap any resilience level, not considering overshields or other factors, such as DR. And on paper, this sounds easy. It's like Hawkmoon, right? I just land my crits, I dodge as an acrobat dodge, and then I've got a 2-tapper that I can just roam around and wreak havoc with. Well, let me tell you about the reality of that situation. This should be easy on paper. I'm not asking much. I'm asking you to land 4 crits and hit dodge. The reason now I'm only asking you to land 4 crits is that the weapon's magazine, or cylinder size, is 7 rounds. This is reminiscent of another aggressive hand cannon in Destiny 1. I cannot remember the name, but there was an aggressive frame hand cannon in Destiny 1 that could stack perks and allow for a 1-tap. I can't remember the name currently, but it also had a small magazine and the perks interacted with it in that way as well. So what this feels like in game is either you're going to get lucky and get crits while the enemy team feeds you, and then you can quickly reload, especially if you're running Solar Hunter again, thanks to, what's the aspect? I'm a Warlock, man. Please forgive me. There's a Solar Hunter aspect that if you land crits, you can reload.
Yeah, I never remember the names of aspects, and I'm a Hunter main, so it's all
You're
good.
Fired.
I know what you're talking about.
So at any rate, it enables fast reloads. So you land 3, kill someone, land a 4th shot, get behind cover. Now you can reload, because if you reload on your mark, thank you.
Yeah.
If you reload beforehand, you'll restart the whole counter system for Focus Fury. So you've got to kind of awkwardly walk around with half a magazine after that first kill. And then you land that 4th shot, you get behind cover, you reload, and then you acrobats dodge, and now you've got a 2-tapper. Here's the reality of what happens once those conditions are met. This can prove to be difficult because as soon as you do it, I want you to guess who's going to get solo supered. Oh, it's you. Or you catch a random snipe from somebody on a part of the map you never thought that Bungie or God intended for them to be on. Or you get somebody hits you with a bow and then their teammate follows up with a headshot and you're down. So the reality of this is that on paper, easy to do, in practice, very impractical.
Yeah, I think that's, especially for 6s, that's a pretty fair summation.
Yes. Now, another role that I have that I'm interested in trying out, and I just had this thought this afternoon. Perpetual Motion and Harmony. Harmony, and again, another 20% damage buff when you get a kill or a final blow with another weapon in your inventory. Now, you could do the same thing here. You could go for something that gets you a special weapon, that gets you an easy first kill swap to Harmony after you acrobats dodge, or swap then do the dodge. You've effectively done the same thing. What I'm going to do, since I'm a Warlock main, is I'm going to throw on Rain of Fire, and I'm going to use Xur's ingredient. And then what I will do is accomplish the very difficult and trying task of getting a Xur ingredient fusion rifle kill. Very challenging thing, but I think I'll pull it off, Kit. I will then be Radiant, thanks to Rain of Fire, having provided me the buff for getting a fusion rifle kill. I can then also Icarus Dash, if I ever need to reload, by the way. That's fun. People forget about that, about Rain of Fire. But I'll swap to the Harmony charged hand cannon, which now also has Radiance. Now, Harmony's timer is less than Focus Fury, but for the purposes of quick play, this will do just fine. Yeah. And this is probably a much more feasible, realistic, and practical way to achieve the same effect using different perks.
Yeah, I think that's all. I think that's all fair to say. Well, let's circle back.
Yes.
Let's baseline this weapon for folks.
Oh God.
We're a little out of order here, so I'm going to take us back. So, pure poetry, kinetic, aggressive hand cannon. Note the kinetic. There aren't a ton of decent kinetic, aggressive hand cannon options, so bear that in mind. The aggressive hand cannons are 120 RPM. That is the slowest rate of fire for hand cannons. The time to kill for the aggressive hand cannon is 1 second flat with 2 crits in one body, which is, pretty achievable, generally speaking. It is at 4 bodies in 1.5 seconds, which is pretty terrible, generally speaking. So the time to kill is pretty reliable to achieve, but not as fast as most of your competitive weapons in the sandbox right now. That said, because it does deal 80 chunk damage with every shot, it's great if you are good at peek shooting, good at using cover, if you are good at priming opponents with abilities, if you're team shooting, if you're blinting. There are a lot of things that you can do to kind of take advantage of the big chunky shots that these hand cannons fire. But you do have to do those things. You can't necessarily go into a duel and expect that it's going to go your way, because it probably won't. Especially with the new anti-flinch meta, like there's just a lot of arguments against trying to straight up 1v1 somebody when this is all you're doing. Pure poetry, in terms of the stats, is more or less perfectly average for an aggressive hand cannon. The stats are a bit worse than the something new hand cannon that recently dropped in the same slot. So that's kind of a rough comparison. More or less comes down to which one you like the perks better on. It is significantly worse than Igneous Hammer, which is, of course, in the energy slot. And that's more or less true of all aggressive hand cannons. Igneous Hammer is just an unfair comparison. Yeah, that's all you can say about that. It does have 2 origin traits. Vanguard's Vindication grants 7 health on kills. Hawkeye Breach Armaments grants plus 15% damage versus vehicles, turrets, barricades, and crystals. Neither of them is super exciting. For PvP generally, I would take Vanguard's Vindication just because, if I can stay alive with just a sliver of health, then I'm alive with a sliver of health, and that's not nothing. So that's more or less that. In terms of the magazines and barrels, I don't think there are any shocking choices to make here. Fluted barrel is pretty much top tier. A little stability, a bunch of handling, both weaknesses of this weapon. Rico rounds, as I am now calling them because I have seen a bunch of people say that and I just love saying it, is always phenomenal. Flared Bagwell also gives you a big, nice stat buff to stats that are relative weaknesses for this weapon. So I think those are both pretty safe choices. Nothing else really excites the imagination in any way. So that's kind of that. The stats more or less put this weapon squarely in the average. So I'm like, okay, it's all about the perks. Does it have good perks? Well, I will tell you that it has a lot of perks. Like all playlist weapons, yeah, it has it has 12 perks in the 3rd and 4th columns, and really all you can do to get a decent pure poetry roll is just play a crap ton of strikes. There's just, it is what it is. That is the grind. If you play a ton of strikes, odds are decent that you probably have a 2 out of 4 roll on pure poetry. It's tough. It hurts, but it's true. It hurts. Farming a decent roll is just pure agony for these weapons. So you really have to be motivated. Does pure poetry deliver that motivation? Well, your experience, Critbuff, so far would lead me to believe that it is not delivering a lot of strong motivation for you so far to keep chasing.
There's an asterisk there, right? Because this is the process for me, by the way, and it always is the same. The first 100 kills, I'm convinced the weapon's trash.
Yeah.
From 100 to 500, I'm like, okay, maybe there's something to hear. And then by 500 to 1,000, I've either gotten it or I'm like, I've reaffirmed my opinion. No, this is trash. Yeah. So, an important stat, and I definitely want to get your point of view on this. Kit.
Okay, yeah.
60 aim assist.
It's not great for a hand cannon.
You're being very kind.
Yeah, so it's in the aggressive hand cannons, that's more or less what you expect. Now, there are some aggressives that have better aim assist by, say 5 to 9 points. Igneous Hammer, again, is the best, 69 aim assist. It's the most you can get out of an aggressive hand cannon. and that's enough to feel the difference.
It is.
Steady hand. If you picked up one of those from Iron Banner at some point in the past, 65. Again, that's a targeting adjuster mod just built into the weapon compared to pure poetry. It is enough that the weapon may feel a bit more consistent. You know, when you're coming from the world of Ias Luna, and we talked about farming weapons and also getting lucky when it comes to reviewing weapons. And boy, I've had 2 Ias Luna drops, and I still play with the first one. I've just not gone back because it's just too good. That's neither here nor there. 60 aim assist definitely is felt when you're coming from the world of Ias Luna, of Ostringer. It's multiple orders of magnitude less good. And really what's helping you here is that you are sort of, because you have a noticeably slower rate of fire, you are forced to pace your shots out a bit more. I would even say if you're playing with an aggressive hand cannon, trying to hit the optimal time to kill is almost not worth it. Like, you might as well really pace your shots out, use cover, and like let it fully reset almost between shots. You've got the full aim assist every single time. And if you're doing that, you know, if you're using cover well, I think it's fine. If you are trying to get kills straight up with a gun, that plus the terrible stability stats that they all have, and that pure poetry has kind of a time trying to deal with.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah, that third shot, like, you're lucky it only needs to be a body. Because it's only going to be a body for most people.
That's by design, I think.
Yeah, it's almost like somebody spent a lot of time thinking about this. But we know Bungie developers never do that. They just randomly make changes and then throw them out into the wild. That's absolutely...
They don't test.
Yeah. They don't... They canned the test department years ago. They realized they didn't need them.
Never mind that I personally know multiple employees in that department. Okay.
Clearly figments of your imagination. I had a random on Twitter assert to me that they are definitely just lying every time they say something. So it must be true. Okay, all sarcasm aside, I think pure poetry does have some roles that are interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that I can really say it's great or that I recommend it, strictly speaking. But here's what I came up with that I'm like, okay, if I happen to get this role, I'm going to hang on to it and see how I feel about it. Okay. So, first up, Swashbuckler. Just straight up, if I get pure poetry with Swashbuckler, I am not sharding it until I've looked at the complete role and I've given it a try. And specifically, I'm glad you brought up Shadebinder because that's the class for Swashbuckler players. Big brain plays.
Big brain.
Now, for sure, Striker Titans can also take advantage of this, and it's never been a better time to be a Striker Titan than it is right now.
Lord, that's the truth.
It's absolutely a thing. So Swashbuckler does give you that beautiful half-second 2-tap. It does it all by itself. It doesn't need any help. What radius?
It's a strong, independent woman who don't need no man.
It's the facts, you know?
Yeah.
Swashbuckler's doing it by itself. And all you have to do is just get a melee kill, which, you know, of course, is easier said than done. But if you are building around getting melee kills on a regular basis, you might as well be running a weapon with Swashbuckler. It might as well be pure poetry, right? Why not? It does pair quite well with Well-Rounded, which gives it some things that it otherwise could have more of, i.e. a little extra range, little extra aim assist.
Stability, the handling.
Or, I'm sorry, not aim assist, yeah, stability and handling. All things that this weapon honestly could have more of.
Mm-hmm.
So not aim assist. Completely misspoke there, just to be clear. I'm aware I said the wrong word.
There will be at least 10 comments.
Yes. So it does it does pair pretty well. And honestly, in that column, like that third column is just like a trash heap. It's
yikes.
It's a real yikes for me.
I mean, there's perpetual motion repping.
And that's when perpetual motion is like the best option on an aggressive hand cannon. That's when I'm concerned. And it arguably is the best option in that column. So that's kind of rough. That's kind of a rough statement about pure poetry right there for me personally. Not a huge fan of it. In terms of dueling, I like Eye of the Storm. It's a perk that I can never say enough good things about. It's just passively going to be working. in 90% of your engagements. You've also got opening shot in that second column, which can be pretty handy for dueling. But again, for me, and I think the point you made, it's really the third shot hitting that you need to be concerned about. It's not that first shot, you're probably going to be fine.
Yeah.
And so opening shot for me kind of underperforms on this weapon. I'd much rather have Eye of the Storm, where that third shot is going to be going in a straight line at the very least, even if I don't have a lot of aim assist. And again, I like well-rounded because it's really easy to proc. It lasts for 10 seconds. You've got multiple options to trigger it, and there are a lot of builds right now that it works well with. So I think it's a great option to have. And per pet, you're dead right. Like, what else are you going to take into PvP in that column? I don't know.
Yeah. It's rough going. Like, hold on, let me play with this for a second. So you could go full airborne on pure poetry if you just really if you wanted to build into it. You know, you're gonna probably need an exotic as well to boost you up. But you've got extended mag, you've got air assault, and then you could run Eye of the Storm for just extra accuracy, since you're also, you know, intentionally allowing yourself to take a shot or two, as if you really had a lot of choices. But that extra accuracy is just going to make it even more accurate in the air, with air assault on top, with extended mag on top. So you're going to be shooting in straight lines. Now, the question, of course, is can you hit your shots without aim assist in the air? And for most people, the answer is no. No, you can't. And so the airborne build could also benefit from opening shot if you are, say, taking the occasional jump shot with this weapon. Maybe you're blinting with it, and you want to be able to make sure you get that final hit, even if you have to jump over a box to do it. Yep.
And so that is certainly a path you could go down. For an arc subclass player, if you are blinting or if you just love handling, LCAP, Elemental Capacitor, is the absolute juice.
Yep. That's definitely an option there. With
fluted, I believe you're at more or less full on arc at that point. It is 91, so, you know, good enough.
Maybe you luck out, you get yourself in a handling masterwork.
Yeah.
You know,
perfect handling is definitely possible on pure poetry. And for players for whom that is valuable, and that's a lot of us, you know, with no quick draw, no snapshot, having 100 handling built in is certainly not something to ignore. And even if you don't have the handling masterwork, perpetual motion will put you over the top. You know, I think for me, probably the two roles that would be worth having for me would be a decent swash roll and an elemental capacitor roll.
Yeah.
I think that would prompt me to hang on to it in the vault in case I ever do need that weapon in that slot.
I think you're on to something there, especially with, I mean, we talk about the dueling version of the weapon, right? So perpetual motion, LE cap. You mentioned swash for fun.
Yeah.
I think, you know, swash is doing effectively what I'm trying to do currently with my weird workarounds, but much easier.
Swashbuckler, it's the season, man. Like which is funny because of course it's also season of plunder, so it's pirate themed. And it just happens the Arc 3.0 has melee heavy builds, and so the perk Swashbuckler just happens to like really have an opportunity to shine this season. I don't know.
Tell you what, like I said, any of those plunder weapons, when you get right hook and you've got swash working together, it's
it's the stuff.
Yeah. That was the thing. I'm sorry to backtrack to Blood Feud real quick. That was the thing about the Stasis Blood Feud build I had. Hedrons, right hook, swash, all playing together after you freeze and then you slap somebody.
Yeah. At that point, literally any weapon is good.
Right.
Like it almost doesn't even matter what it is. Like, you're going to be fine.
Exactly.
You know, that's like sub half second time to kill, bonus range, bonus aim assist. Like, yeah.
Yeah, it was more fun than the straight dueling version. So keep that in mind if you're listening. You know, sometimes there's a straightforward dueling version, but sometimes there's a surprise here if you look.
Yeah.
So my verdict is still out. I am going to actively, as of right now, as I close in on like close to 100 kills, I'm going to actively dissuade you from Focus Fury. The temptation is there. Don't let that siren lead you astray. I'm going to say that if you want to do the two-tapper, I think Kit is absolutely on the right path with Swash. Plenty of melee ways to do that. If you're weird like me, Harmony. definitely an option. I think Kit's nailed it on the head. Column 3 is slim pickings, but
It's rough.
let's look at our winners. So let's put some lipstick on some pigs. We've got well-rounded, as you mentioned, using a grenade, just chucking your grenade. I don't care if you even hit anything. Just throw it in the sky. That's 10 range, 10 stability, 10 handling. Hit somebody with your melee or another grenade after that. If you're maybe using a subclass like Revenant where you get 2 melees, or you've got an exotic on that grants you 2 ability charges. Now you've got 20 of each. Perpetual Motion. Community seems to have fallen in love with it. I would say that's probably my top pick for that column. If you're using this, as Kit recommended, as a team fire weapon, there is Ensemble. So
Now, I will point out, because this is worth noting, Harmony or any other 20% damage buff will let you 2-tap with this weapon up to 5 resilience.
thank you.
That is, it's not going to be reliable, right? But you could probably bet it'll work on like every other player, So it certainly isn't bad. But yeah, you really need, I think, at least 25% to get into the firm guaranteed 2-tapping. And so basically that's multi-kill clip times 2 or swash times 5.
And the problem I was running into when I initially tried the Focus Fury build is I'm a Warlock main, so I was trying to think of ways to do this as a Warlock, so I was trying to become a turret with my Empowering Rifts, and that even limited my options even more than the awkward, like, walking around with half a magazine thing, so that just didn't work. That's what made me switch over to Hunter for the rest of this testing. So,
yeah.
One final note, Tunnel Vision. You do get that kill, you reload that puppy, you're really solving the aim assist problem and the accuracy problem that I feel this weapon has.
Yeah, that's fair. I did not mention Tunnel Vision. The main reason I'm hesitant on Tunnel Vision on this weapon is that I don't feel like it's good enough for me to be confident in getting that first kill to activate it. Like,
fair.
That's
fair.
That's my only hesitation. That's always my hesitation with Tunnel Vision is like, all right, is this weapon just like straight up good enough that I'm gonna get that first kill?
Yeah. That's fair.
So, and some of that comes down to the player, right? Full disclosure, I'm maybe like a top 30% player, which puts me actually in the mushy middle in terms of skill rating, like well outside the hallowed halls of those top 1% players. There are actual legions of people between me and them, and I don't know. I can certainly get kills with these guns, but do I want to have a perk that is not going to be active in 90% of my gunfights? I don't think I do.
Sell. Yeah, I guess Ensemble is probably Perpetual Motion Ensemble, really, at the end of the day, or maybe well-rounded.
Yeah, I don't mean to trash talk it too much. Like, Tunnel Vision's a phenomenal perk. It gives you so much juice. I'm apparently saying juice a lot today. I don't know why, but there it is. So if you've got an easy path to that first kill, or if you just don't have any trouble getting it, then by all means,
if you're goated, yeah,
go on a tear.
I mean, you can only polish a turd so much, and it's still a turd.
It's true.
All right.
It's true. So I'm not. For me, Pure Poetry is one of those weapons where I'm happy if I get a good roll, and I am absolutely not going to farm it.
Yeah.
It's just
do your strikes every week, get your pinnacle, and maybe you get lucky and when a good one drops.
Yeah. Alternately, well, I'll talk about what my alternative is to that in a minute.
Okay.
Or maybe like 30 minutes. So the next one, I don't think I have anything else to say about Pure Poetry. We've got 2 more guns to get through. I'd like to do it in less than an hour. So let's give it a shot.
Okay.
The next one I think will be a little quicker, but I could be wrong.
All right.
I want to talk about Yesteryear.
Let's do it.
Yesteryear is, and I'm gonna lead off properly this time with the baseline for folks. Yesteryear is a void adaptive pulse rifle, 390 RPM. Adaptives are, I think, probably a pretty solid archetype. They do struggle in terms of time to kill against rapid fires or high impacts, but I think they are very easy to use. Great weapon for anyone who wants to use a pulse rifle and kind of not have to worry about terrible stability or anything like that. They're just tend to be, pretty good in terms of how they feel. They also benefit from damage buffs like few weapons. It takes just a tickle to put these weapons into the absolute like top tier of time to kill. Now, yesteryear, stat-wise, is kind of weak sauce against the other adaptive pulse rifles. Like, maybe you noticed this too, but like the stability is kind of bad. The recoil direction is awful.
Well, in its defense, the recoil direction is quickly adjusted with one mod.
It is. You can absolutely just throw a counterbalance on. It always hurts me to have to do that though. I'm like, but I could be doing a win more mod instead of a fix this gun.
The same was true for Messenger.
That's fair. Yeah. Sometimes you just need a counterbalance mod. And there are weapons where they have terrible recoil, but they have so much zoom that it's just doesn't matter. This is not one of them. The zoom is 1.7, which is on the lower side for pulse rifles. It's not truly low zoom for a pulse rifle, but it is definitely on that end of things. 1.9 is kind of more the average median zoom for a pulse rifle. I do feel like for me, that hurts it, and that's there are folks who love their cold denial at 1.4 zoom. They exist. They've told me that I'm wrong for always favoring high zoom, but yeah, I'm not one of them. So, time to kill wise, adaptives are 0.93 seconds with 6 crits and 1 body. So that you just need one more shot after that second burst, but it does put you into the third burst. Pulse rifles have a burst delay, which dramatically slows you down here. The body shot time to kill is 1.47 seconds. Of course, not great. Body shot time to kills rarely are. This could be worse, honestly. It could be a lot worse. The median time to kill at 1 second, 5 crits and 3 bodies, which is pretty achievable with any decent roll on pretty much any adaptive pulse rifle. Now, what I said earlier, any 10% or greater damage buff, Radiant, Tricorn, Rampage, Multi-Kill Clip, Focus Fury, etc., Empowering Rift, all the things will make it a 0.6 second 2-burst kill with 6 crits. If you're able to stack some damage buffs up to over 20%, you can make that a little easier on yourself. Obviously, more is better, but just anything at all makes them 2-burst faster than the high impacts do. I will note gut shot straight is just virtually meaningless on this weapon. It's essentially just an aim assist penalty. You do need one less shot for the body shot time to kill. And the median time to kill is 1 less crit, 1 more body. It's not any faster. Mm-hmm. So it's more or less just like an aim assist penalty that does nothing for you. Do not take gut shot straight on this gun. It's a cool perk, not on this gun. And the last weird one I got to mention is Desperado. Desperado is a 0.7 multiplier for the delay. It reduces the burst delay on pulse rifles. It does not change their rate of fire per se. Now, it effectively changes their rounds per minute rate of fire stat, but they are firing at 900 RPM within the burst regardless. It's the burst delay that makes their actual effective rate of fire slower. It's reducing that. So that's kind of the weird mechanics of pulse rifles right there. Desperado gives you a 0.8 second time to kill with 6 crits and 1 body, 1.27 second body shot time to kill, which is actually pretty good at pulse rifle ranges, and a 0.87 second median time to kill with 5 crits and 3 bodies. Pretty easy to do. So overall, Desperado is effectively worse than any damage buff at all. Just by the numbers. That's what the numbers say. The numbers don't lie.
Well, you got to crush people's dreams, man.
I got excited when I saw,
Everybody
Desperado
got
on a new pulse rifle. And I was like, sweet. And then I looked at it and I looked at the numbers. I'm like, oh, it has Tricorn. Well, I'll just take that.
I was going to say, if anything screams at me in this fourth column, it's Tricorn, because Tricorn lasts forever and it keeps refreshing itself.
It does. Well, talk to me. I'm gonna hand the mic over to you. I have just said a whole bunch of words. Nobody wants to hear my voice any more than they have to. Talk to me about the perks, Critbuff. What do we got? Because we got a lot.
We're going for time, so I'm going to pass over what I'm not really interested in. Although there's some interesting contenders in this column. All right, so we've heard Cammy say it, we've heard Ivan say it. Handling is TTK. There's steady hands in column 3. That immediately comes to mind. Now, you are probably going to be better able to speak to that in greater detail than could I, but I think steady hands, if nothing else, will improve the ADS speed for the weapon. As you mentioned to the zoom, I want to touch upon that point real quick. True Vanguard made an interesting comparison. This is the same zoom as Bygones. Same archetype, same zoom.
Bygones actually had 1.9.
Oh, I disregard what I said. Okay.
I'm pretty sure. I don't know. I don't think I have it in the sheet anymore because it's
okay. No worries.
So old. It doesn't matter.
Okay, yeah. Steady hands if you are into having that option to swap to something for CQC combat if you are getting pushed. Okay, of course, Outlaw pairs naturally with Desperado. We just finished talking about why Desperado may not be what you think it is on this weapon. While unique, while it does meet that criteria of doing something that no other adaptive pulse rifle can do, the second question you have to ask yourself after you've answered the question, is it unique in some way? Is it unique and good?
I was wrong. Bygones did have 1.7.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, I misremembered. I don't know why I thought it had 1.9.
Well, you're human, and if most adaptives fall in at 1.9, it's an easy thing to fall into. So, again, perpetual motion, there's an option. We talked about all of the benefits that perk is offered. I think heating up is a fun win more perk, especially in terms of controlling vertical recoil.
Yeah.
And we've already talked about how recoil could potentially be an issue for this weapon. You could get arrowhead, get it up to 80, slap on counterbalance, you're at 95, so even less deviation than 65. Truth be told, when I look at column 4, the winners that stand out to me are, of course, Golden Tricorn. I don't have very many nice things to say about Repulsor Brace, even in PvE. I think it's the weakest of the elemental weapon perks. Rampage is here. We talked about how even a single damage mod can get you to that 2-tap. Rampage can do that for you. There's multi-kill clip.
Yeah.
And nothing else is really standing out to me here. Kit, you might be able to provide perspective that I can't, but just looking at it, if I had to go with something, I'd go for the 2 win more perks. I would go for heating up, and I would go for Golden Tricorn.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a solid pick. One of the nice things about the adaptives, like I said, is that there are a lot of ways to get them to that two tapping status, even outside of like what's on the weapon itself. So you can very easily proc Radiant, drop an Empowering Rift, do any number of other things to get yourself that little extra damage that you need, which makes getting that first kill much easier. And so here, win more perks make a lot more sense to me because it's something that you can easily set up. You don't have to just rely on what's on the gun, which is
right.
A little different, right? Pure Poetry, getting it over that 25% damage buff status requires a super, which is just not really a strategy at that point. So I like the win more perks here. I always like Perpetual Motion. I think it does great things for this weapon, where stability can do a lot to help make up for bad recoil. Stability moderates the intensity of recoil on weapons. So even though the direction might be straight sideways, like it's not going to be very much sideways if you can just stack enough stability on there. So that becomes then a thumb skill question where you can try to control it. Sideways is always a little less fun to control than straight up and down, but it can be done. But heating up is really, really good on this weapon. It kind of hits all of the pain points. Better accuracy, better stability, better recoil. It lasts 5.5 seconds, which is a good amount of time. Golden Tricorn lasts 7 seconds, which is an even better amount of time. And I think for me, Golden Tricorn is just far and away the S tier pick on this weapon.
Oh, yeah.
Because why have 10% when you can have 20% or 15%, excuse me, with the possibility of 50%?
Yes, exactly. And it wouldn't be too hard, Kit, because let's say you get someone weak with 1 stack, they go behind a corner, throw an Axion grenade.
Yeah.
It'll find them, it'll kill them, and now you're walking around with ×2.
Yeah. And just because we can, Golden Tricorn ×2 will kill a Guardian in 0.53 seconds on an adaptive pulse rifle. 4 crits, 1 body. That's absolutely achievable. You will, getting the 2 burst at that point is almost not even a question. You can 2 burst a Guardian with 2 crits and 4 bodies in 0.6 seconds. At that point, you're just going to keep chaining it. You're invincible until somebody supers you. Losing gunfights, it's hard to do once you get that rolling.
And like you said, easy to do too, because you just throw down an empowering rift. You've got Devour too.
Oh yeah, Devour is excellent. This is a void weapon. So playing into those Void 3.0 synergies is something that you can very much do.
And the origin trait, we haven't even talked about Suros Synergy.
We haven't, yeah. Suros Synergy. So it also has Gun and Run, which, I'll acknowledge they did update. Rapidly defeating targets grants bonus sprint speed. Guardians, powerful combatants, high-value targets grant this bonus quicker. I think Gun and Run is a pretty solid origin trait. But for yesteryear, yeah, Suros Synergy.
Yeah, so I would say Suros Synergy, you fire once before you actually get into your engagement. Now you've got reduced flinch. You're combining that with heating up. You're combining that with the extra damage from Golden Tricorn. Yeah. You're making me want to play some Gambit, Kit. And I didn't.
I usually try not to do that to people. But I think yesteryear just it plays well. It plays well with a lot of stuff that's out there. Suros Synergy, like you said, yeah, pre-firing it, reloading, and then you go. It's a really great perk. Let's be honest, you're constantly triggering that when you're in the Crucible. If you're like most players, you obsessively reload after every gunfight, even the ones you shouldn't. And, so that perk is just up a ton. It's a huge 20% flinch resistance is a huge, huge difference. I think it's hard to go too wrong if you can get Golden Tricorn and just any kind of stability buffs at all, And
to that end, even Slideways, it's on here.
Yeah, Slideways is absolutely an option. Now, I don't know if Slideways activates Suros Synergy. I'm not sure about the interaction Probably there. Not. I would guess it doesn't. Yeah. Safe to bet that
seems
it
a little too easy.
It does, yeah. It does seem a little too easy.
Should we move on to the star of the show, though? What you've really been waiting to get to?
Just for the record, if it was me yesteryear, I'd go for a stability masterwork because I think better stability is a must-have. I think the counterbalance mod is a good pick for the barrels. Stop me if you disagree. I like 4 as options. Arrowhead Break is, I think, really solid here. Chambered Compensator is not my top pick, but I wouldn't be upset if it was the best option. I'd go with it.
You wouldn't kick her out of bed. All right.
I don't like the handling penalty on this weapon.
I don't either.
But I'll live with it. Small bore, I think, is super solid. Fills in some gaps there. And then polygonal, I would again, I'd be happy with. Plus 10 stability is never anything to be upset about. And of course, I will always be pretty happy with fluted barrel as well. Huge stat points. And buffing handling is always good. So, so lots of viable choices there. And then I think Rico Rounds is just the undeniable big winner for the magazines. With an acknowledgement, flared magwell is fine. Nothing wrong with that. Plays well with Suros Synergy. Any other perk in there, I'm not super excited about.
I think you hit it all on the head. I think we're good. We covered it.
All right. Well, that's yesteryear. I think it's a phenomenal 6s weapon. There's a ton of perks we didn't even get into. A ton of Void Synergy Repulsor braces on there if you want to get into that. Fair enough. In PvP, I would agree with you fully. I think it's a nice PvE option.
Maybe Void Buddy goes and you tag somebody that Void Buddy is weakening. Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe you throw some Hunter Smoke on someone's face. I don't know. I'm not digging it.
That's fair. I do like pulse rifles for the Void Buddy. I think they're really a lot more consistent at activating it than a lot of weapons. And yesteryear, 2 bursts from yesteryear will also leave somebody super vulnerable to that child, tagging them out. So it's certainly a thing you could do. All right. I'm really excited.
Drum roll, please.
We're finally doing it. We're talking about Out of Bounds. I've been talking about how much I love this weapon all season, just in episodes where it has no real relevance. It's time to give it the full, deep attention that it deserves. Out of Bounds is an arc lightweight submachine gun. It's 900 RPM, fastest firing submachine guns. Looking at the stat compared to other lightweight submachine guns, it is more or less pretty average across the board, but it does have a little better aim assist than most of its peers. It's not the best in that class, but it is a little bit better than the average bear. What really makes Out of Bounds shine for me, what really kind of grabbed my attention, is the origin traits. And I am not talking about One Quiet Moment.
No? One Quiet Moment not doing it for you?
Surprised. I'm not mad about One Quiet Moment. I just don't care.
You're just disappointed.
I'm just disappointed. So Out of Bounds, it's gifted, it's blessed with Omelon Fluid Dynamics, which I think is quite possibly one of the best origin traits to grace the sandbox since the concept of origin traits entered the game. So Omelon Fluid Dynamics reads, this weapon has increased reload speed and stability for the top half of the magazine. That starts with a plus 20 stability buff, a plus 30 reload speed buff, and gradually decreases to 0 at 50% of the magazine. The base mag of 36, that means you are good until you get down to 18 rounds. And you're slowly losing stat as you go along. But the wonderful thing about it is that it starts out really, really great, and you've got some really great perk options to let you lean hard into just abusing the top half of that magazine. If you ever fire this weapon past 18 in the mag, you got to be like desperate, you had no other choice. You had to keep shooting it. It's okay. I gotta take a breath, calm myself. Okay. Tell the people about the perks on Out of Bounds.
Oh my gosh.
Because I know you're excited about some of the same perks I am here, and it's got a lot of good perks. This is not pure poetry, folks. These are not pure poetry perk rows.
All right. So I'm going to preface this all with Mercules, who used to host this podcast, having tweeted in response to somebody tweeting about Out of Bounds, the GIF or GIF, however you want to pronounce it, of George Lucas saying, I may have gone too far in a few places. So that's the preface.
I almost feel like he made this for me.
I think he did. It's a love letter to you.
It feels like it.
All right. We just heard about how great Omelon Fluid Dynamics is. You know what's even better? After Omelon Fluid Dynamics is gone, Dynamic Sway Reduction is there with open arms to hug you and embrace you. That starts us off in the third column. You like CQC weapons firing from the hip? Hip fire grip is here for you. Aim assist, precision angle threshold, accuracy cone, stability, aim assist fall off distance, stickiness. Beautiful. You like CQC? Threat detector is here for you. Threat detector, highly undervalued perk by the average player. Stability, reload speed, handling, animation. Stacks to 2 times. Changes how some weapons work in CQC, if you ask me. Perhaps you like aim assist. You want more of it. Can I have another, please? Moving target here for you while you're aiming down sights. You can also move a little bit faster. Pair this with Peacekeepers on a Titan. You're blazing. Demolitionist. Kit, I think I heard you talk about this when we first saw the weapons for the season get released. You were talking about a Demolitionist role for your Arc Buddy build.
Yeah.
On Getaway Artist. So you've got Demolitionist in the third column, a rare sight. Perpetual Motion. We already talked about how much we love Perpetual Motion and why. Heating Up. Again, solid option. I would not be upset. Maybe not my top pick, but I wouldn't be upset. Killing Wind. Good players tell me this is great. I personally have never felt the effects, but much better players than me have done nothing but sing the praises of Killing Wind for getting after a kill. You get better range, more mobility, which means you're moving faster, strafing. You got better handling, better ADS movement, and you've got some damage fall off. So that's the third column alone. The third column alone has had more to talk about than Pure Poetry did in its entirety.
Yeah.
Let's go to the fourth column. Kill clip. Okay. Kill clip on a 900 RPM. If you're in 6s, could be fun. Golden Tricorn, amazing for the reasons we've already talked about. I'm not quite sure about TTK. The host of the show is going to fill us in on why that might be amazing. Swashbuckler is here. Now, I passed over it before, but Grave Robber could go with Swashbuckler if you're so inclined. Adrenaline Junkie, providing the same damage bonus that Swashbuckler provides, can be paired with Demolitionist if you're so inclined on this weapon, a rare combination. Tap the Trigger. All right, you want accuracy and stability through and through. Well, DSR, Tap the Trigger, and Omelon Fluid Dynamics are here for you. Rangefinder, highly sought after and coveted perk on SMGs. Very useful. Harmony, some people, again, I'm not sure about TTK here. The host of the show will be better able to talk about that one. Fragile Focus, I'm not entirely sold on. I'm not a very good player with very good reaction speed. I would probably never get to see the benefit of this. And then, of course, Well-Rounded, which we've talked about previously. For barrels, we're looking... Well, we'll talk about that later. I've talked enough. Your turn.
Yeah, I mean, fundamentally, like what it comes down to is that Out of Bounds has two massive perk columns, and both of those columns are 50% or better good perks for this weapon specifically. Not just like generally these are good perks. I don't necessarily love it on this weapon. Like, no, these are actually good perks on this weapon. There's a scenario where this perk works well. And that is phenomenal, because it means that if you're just not quite sold on pure poetry like me, and you just don't feel like getting that Vanguard pinnacle some weeks, you can just play more Crucible instead and just collect Out of Bounds. That's what I do virtually every day. So Out of Bounds... Yeah, I still don't have my targeted role, the one I'm really chasing. But I've got some pretty solid ones that I'm pretty happy with. And I want to talk about which, because there are so many good perks, it almost becomes difficult to decide, okay, which of these good perks is the best. So I want to talk first about Dynamic Sway Reduction. This is a perk I've preached the glories of many times. Some people look at it, they look at, the community research and like, oh, it's just plus 10 stability. Well, that's lame. Like, who cares? That's not worth, anything. There are so many better perks. Dynamic Sway Reduction activates when you pull the trigger, and it gradually increases the accuracy of the weapon and the stability of the weapon at the same time. The stability gradually goes up to 10 at 0.6 seconds. The accuracy is gradually reduced to effectively like minus 100% accuracy cone size. At 0.6 seconds, it reaches maximum effect. So along the way, it is, various fractions of that, still very, very good. It effectively, the way it works on a submachine gun is you pull the trigger, you get some initial bloom, and then it retracts to initial accuracy, and you never have bloom again for the rest of the shot. With enough stability and accuracy perks, you just don't experience bloom at all. The gun fires in a straight line the whole time, all of your shots perfectly on target. The extra stability, also good to know, helps to reduce aim assist degradation. Every time a bullet fires, your aim assist gets reduced, but your stability goes up. So each time a bullet fires, your aim assist gets reduced by a little bit less than the last shot. This perk is doing so many things all at once, and all you have to do to activate it is pull the trigger. It's really, really good. Arguably too good. Don't tell anyone at Bungie that I said that. Yeah.
He's listening.
Yeah, I know that some of them are listening. So, yeah, it's a professional hazard. It's just a really good perk on SMGs. If you took that perk off of SMGs, so many SMGs would just instantly become unusable. Not even funny. Also, the other perk that I think for me has been a real, absolute star on this weapon in that third column, that I'm going to be honest, I had underrated prior to this season, is Threat Detector. Threat Detector activates anytime you're within 15 meters of at least one opponent. Now, this weapon's damage fall off without rangefinder stops at 16 meters. So ideally, if you're using the gun, you're within 15 meters, Threat Detector is active. If you've got two enemies, the benefit is actually more than doubled. It's phenomenally effective. As long as you've got at least one target within range, which threat detector will activate and tell you is the case. You're getting 15 stability, 15 reload, and a 0.75 times handling animation multiplier that affects your stow speed, your equip speed, or your ready speed, and your aim down sight speed. Threat detector is just doing all the things that you need it to do. It's really, really good. And those for me, like that's sort of where it stops. Like there are other good perks that I'm fine with. Mm-hmm. None of the other ones are competing with these two perks.
That's fair.
Perpetual motion is fine, but 15 handling is not the same thing as a 0.75 times animation multiplier. It's just not even close. And you get 15 stability after you've been moving for 10 seconds. Why not get 15 stability anytime there's an enemy within range?
Just be in there.
Just why not? So it's really, really tough to argue for perpetual motion on this weapon. Normally, really solid perk. Mm-hmm. It's up against like just straight up S tier perks for SMGs. Fourth column, I mean, it's hard not to mention rangefinder. You talked about Brigand's Law. Rangefinder is a 10% boost to zoom, 30% boost to aim assist fall off distance. Mm-hmm. Like it's just really difficult to not take that.
Yeah.
At that point,
have a DSR rangefinder combo, and I look forward to it.
I hate you so much. Oh my gosh, we're mortal enemies until I get that roll. I've been hunting it for so long, this whole season, literally, just the whole season, and I can't get it to drop. I would take any magazine, any barrel perk, don't even care. Yeah. Absolutely worst options. If I can get DSR rangefinder, the gun will be fine. So yeah, so that's kind of like the S tier choice for me. Now I will say, tap the trigger is a really, really good perk. Really, really good. On the initial trigger pull, it grants a short period of increased stability and accuracy. If you don't have DSR or rangefinder, but you do have tap the trigger, you're probably fine. Now, a short period is about 0.6 seconds. It gives you 40 points of stability, reduces the recoil by 50%, reduces the accuracy cone size by 10%. Those are good reductions. You want that. Mm-hmm. Arguably, if you're playing close up, tap the trigger is arguably better than rangefinder for this weapon. Rangefinder adds 1 2/3 meters of damage fall off distance. Now it adds a bunch of aim assist fall off distance. Mm-hmm. 30% is a huge boost. So it's really making a big difference there. But if you are keeping your fights close in, if you are fighting within 15 meters, you don't need it. And even with rangefinder, out of bounds is not going to compete with the higher range SMGs. Its base zoom is 14. It's just not going to keep up with a 15 zoom, a 16 zoom SMG that also has rangefinder. So I think there's a case to be made for just leaning hard into, this is a short range SMG that only hits headshots, and I think, if you make that case, you've got, threat detector, tap the trigger. You've got very nearly 100 stability just every time you pull the trigger.
Plus Omalon. Omalon's right there doing its thing too.
Yeah. Omalon keeping you right there up at that cap, and then you reload. And it's just a really, really solid set of weapons. We haven't even talked about the damage buffs, all of which are phenomenal on lightweight SMGs. If you've got DSR and you want to just chain kills, like literally just take your pick. Any damage buff is going to do good things for this weapon.
You got 4 good ones to choose from, or 5 really.
Yeah, I would say don't waste your time on gut shot because you're better off taking a win more perk than if you want consistency, you want tap the trigger or rangefinder. Like you don't need the minimal extra body shot damage. Harmony's going to do solid stuff. Swash, if you're playing Shadebinder or any other melee heavy class, is going to take you to under half second optimal. Realistically, you'll be maybe 0.6 seconds or so. Pretty achievable 0.6 seconds. Nothing to sneeze at. Tricorn's great. Kill Clip's great. In PvE, Surrounded does make this a super viable PvE weapon for clearing up ads. It's a massive damage buff, and it's getting even better next season. Next season, it's going to be like a base 39% damage buff or something like that. I don't remember the exact numbers.
That's nuts.
anytime you've got 3 ads within 8 meters of you.
Those dregs are going to die so fast.
Yeah, it tears it up. You know, throw on demo surrounded, and you've just got all the grenades all the time. There's so many good things to say about this weapon. So many perk combos I just can't even get to. Okay, so you've got the DSR rangefinder.
Yeah, I do.
Have you taken it out for a spin yet?
No, I've not, because I have to be diligent. I have to be good and stick to the one I'm testing, because if I don't, I'll never get a video out, and I'm already slow about it as it is.
Yeah, that's fair.
To your point, I have also a DSR tap the trigger.
That might almost be too much stability for this world to handle.
And it's got small bore, flared, and a range masterwork on that one.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so let's just look at it here. You said range masterwork.
Range masterwork.
All right. So at that point we've got 49 range. Pretty solid. Pretty darn solid. And flared plus small bore puts you up to 55 base stability.
Yep.
Omelon puts you, we'll call it an average of 10.
Yep.
Just to be fair, puts you 65 base stability effectively.
Yep.
Between DSR and tap the trigger, you are now at roughly 95 average stability during any given gunfight. And your accuracy is also boosted, so you have basically full aim assist, full accuracy throughout the entire gunfight. Yep. Yep. Real hard to argue with this weapon.
And it just... I had to play on Stadia while I was moving, so I was dealing with input delay. I had my controller on a laptop and everything, and I tell you what, even with all of the woes that came with playing with Stadia and an Airbnb internet connection, it still felt good.
Yeah, the gun doesn't need a lot to put it over the top. It really doesn't. I do want to note something I said earlier. I was talking about kind of a low-range version of Out of Bounds when I was talking about rangefinder. I do want to just acknowledge, yes, if you try to max your range out, you go, say Rico rounds, hammer forged, range masterwork, you get up to 57. You can hit out to 21 meters. Again, it's just not really keeping up with like the really long range ones, so it's almost not worth the effort to me.
It's trying to turn it into something that's not.
Yeah. Now, will it still be pretty darn good with DSR? And Omelon fluid going? For sure. Absolutely. If you want to do that, you have my blessing. It's going to be great. You're going to like it. I just like to lean into the thing that makes the weapon super unique, and that is just perfect stability and accuracy. So there we go. All right. I've gushed so much. Do you have any other interesting rolls on this, or any other interesting rolls that you want to try on this?
Let's take a looky, Lou. Okay, what do I have? I have a demo rangefinder with stability, which you talked about. That's got Rico rounds and chambered. I think that's fun if you're running Arc Warlock and you've got Arc Buddy, because Arc Buddy's shooting and doing its thing. It's zooming, like you said, amplified on demand with that. Amplified
on demand, especially with the artifact mod. It's a beautiful thing.
Exactly. We talked about my tap the trigger DSR one is probably the one I'm going to go for. At least for half of the review, honestly. There's a Killing Wind rangefinder, but we talked about trying to, turn something into something that it's not, right? We're not trying to turn Out of Bounds into, the original multi-mock. It's just not meant to do that, so I don't think I'm going to bother with that. For PvE, I've got the Demo Adrenaline Junkie roll. And then, of course, there's the DSR with rangefinder, which, by the way, has small bore, armor piercing, and stability. So...
Nice. Yeah. So, I mean, that's the thing is there are so many good perks on this gun. It's almost like by not mentioning one, I'm not condemning it. Like there are so many good,
except for gut shot
options.
Gut shot, no.
Except for, and it's not even that gut shot is bad on the weapon. It's just that why mess with it?
Yeah.
When you've got so many strong choices, I will say Fragile Focus, I'll absolutely say is garbage on this weapon. There's going to be no encounter where it's active.
If it is, it's for the first bullet or two.
Yeah, you were going to win that fight anyways. If you don't take damage, you don't need it.
Yeah. Pulse monitor, I've heard cool guy loves pulse monitor. I'm personally not sold.
It's a good perk if you're treating this as a holdout weapon, I suppose. Pulse monitor, tap the trigger. But so many times that perk activates because you're about to die.
Yeah.
And just doesn't always pan out the way you'd hoped. It is strong. It gives you a lot of good stuff, but it's a rough perk to count on.
Yeah.
I will say Killing Wind tapped the trigger, actually. You said Killing Wind, and I was just like, oh, I hadn't considered.
It's there.
That could be a combo.
It's there.
That could be a combo.
I have a Killing Wind, so that DSR tap the trigger is one of those ones that got like 3 perks in one column and 2 in the other. It's got Killing Wind on there instead of DSR, so it could be that.
I say try it.
I'll give it a shot.
I think for an aggressive build, and I know you're not by nature an aggressive player.
Yeah.
But even if you're just using it to reposition, I think that's what throws people off about Amplified, is trying to use it to get into gunfights, I think is a mistake. Like, for me, that's a tool to reposition across the map. Yeah. And then I fight at like regular speed, but just with really long slides.
Don't jump.
Yeah. Do not jump. Absolutely. Jumping with Amplified, unless you're just trying to get across the map, is a death sentence. And sometimes even then.
You pull a Mary Poppins.
Yeah. I had not heard that one. I love it.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, shoot, man, you've got all these good out of bounds rolls.
When you're as bad as I am and you do 1,000 kills per weapon, you get a lot.
Oh my gosh. That's just like the jealousy filling my body right now it's overwhelming.
It'll happen. It's like love. You don't go looking for love. Love finds you. So your out of bounds is going to find you one day.
It's got to be this season.
True. Yeah.
Yeah. Is there a Match.com for out of bounds lovers? Like, that's only out of bounds. That's the site I need to join. All right.
Implications.
That's it. We're clearly running out of brain fuel at this point in the show. Critbuff, I've had a blast, man. This has been a ton of fun.
Me too. Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's been a pleasure. I wanna give you a chance to do 2 things right now. First up, share any final thoughts on the 3 weapons that we talked about today, and then tell folks where they can hear more from you.
Thank you. My thoughts. Pure poetry. Only if you are a true 120 aficionado. If the 120 many kicked in and you fell in love and you want to relive your glory years, 2-tapping people, and you're really committed to it, give it a go. Otherwise, if you're not a 120 fan, do not farm strikes. Just keep an eye on your rolls. Yesteryear, I think we pretty decidedly voted on win more perks. Golden Tricorn, absolutely a keeper if you get it. Yeah. You could probably make the 3rd column perk work. Just the Golden Tricorn by itself is just going to do so much heavy lifting. But see what you got there. I know Gambit, not everybody's favorite, but again, if you're grinding Pentacles, keep an eye out. Out of Bounds, I think, is a love letter from Merc to you, and I hope that you get yours soon. I can make Out of Bounds the next one I review after Pure Poetry. And then as for where to reach me, I'm probably most prominently known for poor takes on Twitter, where you can find me at Critbuff. And then let's see, YouTube. Of course, I have a small channel, only about 2,500 subscribers, but I do the 1,000 kill weapon reviews just because I got tired of every time a new season launched, there would be like, it's insane, and then insert weapon that we all know actually wasn't insane here. I decided to take the antithesis to that, and I thought if I can get 1,000 kills or something, I can, no kidding, tell you yay or nay.
Yeah. Well, folks, if you're not already familiar with or following Critbuff, I would encourage you to go ahead and do so. Get familiar. He's bringing some viewpoints to the weapon reviews kind of community for Destiny that a lot of people aren't. And I find that really, really valuable. So I would encourage you to check him out. You will find links in the description for this episode, no matter where you're listening or watching or whatever you're doing to make this audio play. If you're watching, you're not watching much, but wherever you're listening, just scroll down a little bit and you'll find some info on how to find Critbuff on the internet. You'll also find some information on how to find more stuff from Destiny Massive Breakdowns on the internet. And I would, of course, appreciate if you check that out. So you will find all of this information on DestinyMassiveBreakdowns.com. That'll link you to all the pods, including our Star Wars podcast, Beneath Twin Suns, which will be returning in a week as of the time this show is airing. We'll be finishing up the prequel trilogy, which we're very excited to do, and then finally diving into Andor. So lots of fun to be had there. You'll, of course, find Podcast versus Enemies, the PvE pod from Destiny Massive Breakdowns, hosted by people who actually know what they're doing in PvE, not me. And you'll also find links to our Discord server, which I feel is possibly one of the best Discord servers on the internet for anyone who loves to learn about the game. We just recently got some forums going for Destiny Science, and if you want to find some of the best spreadsheets and tools for Destiny that exist anywhere, if you want to understand more about how the game works, there are people there who know so many things. It is always my first stop when I have a question about some obscure mechanic, and invariably somebody knows the answer or knows who does. So check it out. Finally, if you'd like to support this show, we do have a Patreon. You are invited to subscribe to that Patreon for any sum of money that you feel this show is worth to you, whatever that might be. I will let everyone know, whether you're a current patron or someone who's considering becoming a patron, this is a great time of year to become a patron. We are getting ready to launch our annual patron rewards loot. This is something that is available just once a year. We are commissioning original art from Irresolute, a Destiny community artist. We are just wrapping up the poll to select the 2 weapons that will be created for this year's patron rewards. We also are going to have a special patron rewards option for our Star Wars fans. So stay tuned for more information on all of that. To get the info early, as including early looks at early drafts of the art, you're going to want to be in our Patrons Lounge channel, which is available only to subscribing members. So check that out. Finally, I would also like to just thank everyone who's ever left us a review on Apple Podcasts or any other platform. As many listeners know, if you leave a 5-star review, I am contractually obligated to read it out loud so long as you didn't say anything horrible or vile or etc. So here we are, a review from last month that I missed from Traumatize via Apple Podcast here in the US of A. Traumatize writes, a must listen to if you're serious about PvP, 5 stars. I've been a long-time listener on other platforms, having switched to Apple Podcasts recently. This show is a weekly ritual of mine to listen to while I'm at work. You won't find an in-depth analysis of weapons or the sandbox at large for the Crucible of this quality anywhere else. Other shows have opinions and discussions, but Kit delivers hard numbers behind all the perks, archetypes, and interactions you need to choose the perfect loadout at the end of the day. Great selection and variety of guests as well for each individual topic. I can comfortably say this is the best podcast to listen to if you play Crucible anymore than your 3 games a week for the Pinnacle. I didn't read that last sentence very well. If you play Crucible any more than your 3 games a week for the Pinnacle. Okay, yeah, I think it makes sense.
Makes sense to me.
Yeah. So Traumatized, thank you so much. I appreciate it. It means a lot. And if anyone out there is leaving reviews anywhere other than Apple Podcasts, please let me know. You could reach out to me on Discord or on Twitter. My DMs are dangerously open. So feel free to just drop me a screenshot. I'd be happy to read it out and give you some props. That is it. This has been episode 278. I'm Kid Kutcha, my guest, Critbuff. Peace.